I stand corrected. I had made a statement the other day saying that it seems like just as quickly as it began, it was over. Talking about escape season, a time in the year where the weather begins to change, and for whatever reason, it seems every year there tends to be a whole lot of people either breaking out of jails and prisons or attempting to do so. And this year has been no different. Prior to the escape that took place down in New Orleans on May the 16th, where 10 prisoners would break out of the Orleans Parish Justice Center, there were a handful of other escapes that had taken place all throughout the country. But from May the 16th, when the likes of Antoine Massey and Derrick Groves and 8 others would break out of a New Orleans jail, that certainly seemed to be the catalyst that would lead to a bunch of other escapes taking place after the fact. Escape season was in full swing. And fast forward 6 weeks since that May 16th New Orleans jail escape, I was to believe that just as quickly as it began, escape season was over because I wasn't hearing of any additional escapes taking place anywhere. I stand corrected. In fact, on the very day that I made that statement, which I believe was either Friday or Sunday, there were literally like 3 additional escape attempts that took place. One of which was, of course, in New Orleans, but we're not here to talk about that today. In fact, what we are here to talk about is an escape attempt that just took place yesterday in North Carolina that I cannot believe is not being reported as national news. I think it goes without saying that the world is completely desensitized to even the most heinous of situations, which this particular escape attempt that just took place yesterday is exactly that. It's also going to be interesting to compare what I'm getting ready to share with you to Antoine Massey's case specifically. And wait until you hear what I have to share about that. But again, it was just yesterday where yet another jail escape or attempted escape, because this guy would in fact end up getting caught just a short time after this escape attempt. Again, happening in North Carolina. You may not have heard about this yet. Federal inmate's escape attempt leaves 1 deputy dead, another injured in North Carolina. Folks, let me introduce you to the assailant right here, Kelvin Simmons, who, like Antoine Massey, and this is not the comparison that I'm talking about, but like Antoine Massey, he too also has a previous escape on his jacket that just took place last year. Kelvin Simmons, a federal inmate being housed at a detention center for, I believe, a bank robbery, a jail escape, and possibly some other charges. Authorities have released new information after a detention deputy died during an inmate's escape attempt in North Carolina. Let me tell you something. A deputy dies because you're trying to escape from jail? Or escape at all, because it wouldn't actually be a jail or the detention center where this guy was housed at, where he would flee from. But still, if a law enforcement officer loses their life because you're trying to break out of jail, you can forget that standard escape sentence of 5 years, or even in Antoine Massey's case where they're trying to smoke his boots, giving him something like an additional 10 years. All bets are off in this particular case. And when you hear how this deputy lost their life, Buddy's looking at the chair. According to the Cherokee County Sheriff, Dustin Smith, on Monday afternoon, 2 detention officers escorted a federal inmate to a Western Carolina hospital just outside of Murphy for an orthopedic doctor's appointment. Orthopedic. What is an orthopedic doctor? I had to look that up because I thought that an orthopedic doctor would be like somebody who is a doctor of feet. An orthopedic doctor, also known as an orthopedist or an orthopedic surgeon, is a medical doctor specializing in the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of injuries and diseases of the musculoskeletal system. This system includes bones, joints, ligaments, tendons, muscles, and nerves, which are crucial for movement and physical activity. I'm just going to say this guy already had an escape on his record that just took place last year, probably during this same incarceration that he's currently been locked up for. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to transport this guy anywhere. And obviously this would prove to be a horrendous decision in the end. While at the medical facility, the inmate, 48-year-old Kelvin Simmons, got into a scuffle with the detention officers and managed to take one of the detention officers' weapons and shoot detention officer 56-year-old Francisco Paul Flates. The hospital later confirmed Flates died from his injuries. This prisoner was able to get the service weapon of this deputy and shoot and kill him with his own gun in an attempt to escape from custody. Sad to report, and a bit of a spoiler, but let me just go ahead and trigger you with this. After this guy's brief escape from custody, he would be apprehended, and they didn't kill him. It's not even like an officer accidentally died during your escape attempt. You know, maybe he tripped over a curb and hit his head or something like that. No, you actually murdered a frickin' sheriff's deputy while trying to escape custody. And they took you alive? Folks, it gets even crazier than that. And we still haven't gotten to the comparison between him and the Antoine Massey case, or better yet, one major difference. And brace yourself. It's going to trigger you. During the struggle, Simmons injured the other detention officer, identified as George, cannot pronounce his last name. Sheriff Smith said that officer was not shot and no medical staff or patients were injured during the struggle. According to Sheriff Smith, Simmons then fled and carjacked a car from a person in front of the hospital. So not only do you have a first-degree murder charge, which is probably going to be enhanced to capital murder or first-degree murder of a law enforcement officer, which is definitely going to carry the death penalty. Man, you got a carjacking charge as well. I don't know how they do it down in North Carolina, but a carjacking in Virginia carries 20 to life. It is one of the most heinous, violent charges that you can be charged with where you don't even necessarily have to hurt anybody. And yet that joint's going to carry 20 to life. Carjacking, home invasion, armed robbery, like those three type of charges, you're looking at 20 to life. Killed an officer, carjacked somebody in a hospital parking lot. Officials said a chase ensued across multiple counties. Around 2:30, Macon County Dispatch was informed by Clay County Emergency Services that North Carolina Highway Patrol was heading into Macon County in a vehicle chase. This wasn't somebody running because they were driving without a license or they had bad tags. You've got an escaped convict who just killed a law enforcement officer. If you're hearing about this for the first time here, and maybe you've heard about this elsewhere, while researching this story, and again, this just happened yesterday, but even with this, with the caliber, no pun intended, and the nature of this, how is this not being reported more? Think about the New Orleans jail escape. Why was that so heavily broadcast? I mean, essentially, the way that those guys broke out of jail was in a pretty non-violent way. Even though you've got a jail maintenance worker claiming that Antoine Massey threatened to shank him, nobody got hurt. But in this case, this is the absolute polar opposite and certainly worst case scenario for how a guy can go about attempting to break out of custody. Law enforcement agencies across Macon County quickly responded and ended up getting the vehicle stopped on Highway 64 West. That's crazy. Highway 64 West actually runs through my neck of the woods. Macon County deputies said after a brief standoff, Simmons was apprehended and no one at the scene was seriously injured. I don't necessarily believe that police oftentimes have a green light to just go ahead and let loose, but in this particular case, I don't think that anybody really would have batted an eye. What are we doing here? I mean, the worst that you can give this guy is the death penalty. It kind of seems like this guy deserves that plus some. They took this guy in saying that no one on the scene was seriously injured. After a brief standoff, Buddy gave up. That's another diabolical thought to think of too. What are you doing giving up? You've got this officer's service weapon. Buddy, you should have just unplugged the game at that point, because you ain't got nothing good to look forward to. If we think Antoine Massey's got it bad down in Angola State Prison, maximum security Louisiana State Prison, imagine what this guy's got coming to him. Being a federal prisoner already. You're going to ADX Florence, Colorado, Alcatraz of the Rockies, home to Pablo Escobar, and some of the most high caliber, high profile, heinous of criminals. I believe even Larry Hoover was at that particular prison. I could be wrong. A prison where you aren't even going to see daylight for years. If he's lucky, he might end up there, the absolute worst of the worst in the United States. He might not live to see it, though. Simmons was transported to the hospital after complaining that his foot hurt. Oh, I was right after all about that orthopedic situation, but are you kidding me? I mean, this is a guy that you can't trust to let out of your sight. And you're going to transport him out of this detention center where he was being housed at, that he had just escaped from a year prior? Forget his foot pain. Ashley Hornsby Welch, the district attorney for the 43rd Prosecutorial District, said Simmons is facing a first-degree murder charge. Additional charges are expected. Well, that's certainly not surprising. However, folks, what I'm getting ready to share with you will certainly come as a surprise. And this is that major difference between this guy and Antoine Massey. Simmons was booked into the Cherokee County Detention Center under a $100,000 bond. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me this guy who killed a sheriff's deputy while attempting to escape custody, carjacked somebody in the parking lot, got in a high-speed chase, which doesn't even matter. That's nothing in comparison to the rest of this escape attempt. You mean to tell me a guy that did all of this got a $100,000 bond, and if he pays 10 or 20%, or even if he paid the whole damn thing, he could be walking free among us? But yet Antoine Massey, who escaped from jail in essentially a non-violent way, was on the run for 6 weeks, captured less than 2 miles away from the jail, and nobody got hurt throughout that entire process. You mean to tell me they're going to give this guy a bond, but they won't give one to Antoine Massey? Folks, what is going on? How are you going to give this guy a bond? Simmons has also been charged with resisting a public officer and felony escape from local jail. And folks, this appears to be his mugshot after he was apprehended after escaping and killing a sheriff's deputy. Look at this guy. Doesn't even really look like he cares much. I mean, maybe in his face right there, there's probably a small amount of remorse and regret. Like, damn, why did I do that? But buddy, what you've done is undoable. And they gave this guy a bond. I just can't get beyond that. Why is this story not being reported more? Why did the New Orleans story get so much coverage and a story like this, which is way worse, ain't getting no coverage? Is it because of the fact that down in New Orleans they had so much video footage of the escape, even though that really amounted to being not a whole hell of a lot? Maybe it's because of the fact that this guy was apprehended so quickly. And again, taken alive. Unfreaking believable. They say Simmons was in jail for several bank robbery charges and had a previous escape attempt. Simmons climbed the fence of the detention center in October of 2024. I wonder about this guy getting transported to this hospital. This guy is an absolute flight risk and obviously the most violent of offenders given what he did. Was this guy not in full restraints, leg shackles, waist shackles, arm restraints? Buddy should have been transported like frickin' Hannibal Lecter in a straitjacket and a face mask. How did he have the opportunity to overpower the guards? Obviously, those restraints were removed. Or maybe they weren't. Maybe he did all of this while he was in restraint. No telling about that because there's no video footage that's been released of this situation as of yet, and nothing else really being reported about this story. But definitely wanted to share this with you because this is crazy. You give a guy like this who did the most, a $100,000 bond. You didn't even give him $1 million bond. A $100,000 bond is reasonable, doable, especially if you only got to pay 10 or 20% of it, like you have to do in a lot of bail scenarios. I'm sure in this particular case, they're going to want all of that. But just giving this guy a bond in the first place is a slap in the face. Again, just wanted to share this with you. Hope you found some interest in this, and if you did so, please leave a like and a comment on this, letting me know exactly what you think. If you find yourself here on After Prison Show enjoying this content and not yet subscribed to this channel, please consider doing so and turning on bell notifications so that you never miss an upload from us. It would greatly be appreciated and go a long ways to helping to support this channel. As always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted and make the most of every day. Peace.